Today we're going over part 1 of Children of Hurin, the Childhood of Turin. If you're new here, welcome to Heart of a Halfling, where we talk about Lord of the Rings and do some Lord of the Ring things. So let's get started. So the first section of the Children of Hurin is just going over lineage and it's talking about how Hur and Hurin are brothers and they're of the house of Hador, that Morwen and Rion are cousins, and that Morwen is of the house of Beor and of close kin to Beren. We're told that Hurin and Morwen have a son named Turin, who was born in the year that Beren met Luthien, and that they also had a daughter named Erwin, but she was often called Lilith, which meant laughter. Now, in the years after the Dagor Bragolak, we are now hearing that Madros is starting to gather up his union to go and attack Angband, that Beren and Luthien have been successful in getting a Thumwhirl, and so Madros is like, well, surely we can, go and attack. People are a little concerned that he's revealing his hand too soon, so there's a little sort of rumor of things going on, but nothing quite yet has happened. Now, Turin is 5 years old. Erwin is 3 years old. She's running around. She often runs in the lilies and Nin Lilith, and therefore gets her name, Lilith. And everybody that meets her is just madly in love with her. She's just a happy-go-lucky little girl. Turin, however, says that he is loved a little less, that he's much more like his mother, Morwen, that he's dark-haired, that he's much more reserved, a little more moody, but that he learned to speak early on in life, and that Turin is very much against injustice and mockery, and that though he is like his mother, he also has that fiery spirit of his father and can suddenly just become very angry. But he is quick to pity, and that he is brought to great sadness if he ever sees something that's being hurt, or someone, or an animal, or anything like that, that he can easily be brought to tears. Now, Morwen is a very stern woman with other people and with herself, and that Turin didn't get to see his father Hurin very often because he was off away serving under Fingon. And so he was with his mother a lot. And because he wasn't around his father very much, he didn't have a close connection with him. And because his mother was very stern and reserved, he wasn't very close with her. And so all of his love went to his sister Erwin. Now, she was being called an elf child. She's very fair. Everybody was just sort of praising how beautiful and how cheerful and lovely Lilith is. And in the year that she turns 3, we get this plague from Angband. We get the evil breath. And it says that Turin becomes very sick, but that fate saves him. Erwin, however, also becomes sick, and she doesn't survive this. So when Turin heals from his ailment, he goes to his nurse and says, I'm all better. I want to go see Lilith. His nurse tells him, no, you need to stop calling her Lilith. It's Erwin, and you need to go talk to your mother. And he goes, okay. So he goes to Morwen. He goes, basically like, Mama, I'm all better now. I want to go see Erwin, but why can't I call her Lilith? And Morwen goes, because Erwin is dead and laughter has left our home. And he's like, okay. So Morwen now becomes very cold. It already seemed like she was kind of a cold person, but losing Lilith just makes her even colder, makes her more bitter. And she makes a comment about Erwin has died, but you're saved, and so is the one who's killed her. So she's just becoming a very bitter woman. And so she doesn't comfort him. She doesn't comfort anybody else. Hurin is completely lost in his emotions. He's openly mourning for his daughter. It says that he goes out with his harp and he wants to sing this song for her, but he just can't. He ends up breaking his harp instead and just cries for her. So Turin can't really go to anybody, and it says that he is mourning and weeping alone, but that he does go to his friend Sador, who is an older man. He is it says a houseman. He serves under Hurin. He does different things around the home. He is not an intelligent man. It says that he accidentally cut off his own right foot because he didn't know how to wield an axe correctly. And so he chops off his own foot. So he's not a very intelligent man, but he is someone who's kind to Turin, and Turin opens up to him. And it says that Turin would often go and help Sador, but he named him Labadal, which is hop a foot. So Sador didn't take offense to this because a child is giving him this name. And Turin would often help Sador in going and getting different items that he needed. But in doing this, Turin would also go and bring other things that he would just see kind of lying around that he thought Sador might use. And so he'd bring it back to Sador. And Sador had to tell him, give with a free hand, but only give what's yours, only give what you own. And so he would tell Turin to go back and, take back the things that you stole. And so we see this close connection between Turin and Sador. And when Hurin dies, Turin goes to Sador and he asks, was Lilith an elf child? What does that mean? And Sador explained that elves and men are very similar when they're children, but men grow faster, and that's man's fate. So Turin goes, well, what's fate? And Sador says that he should probably ask somebody wiser than him, but that basically men are doomed to die, that they live very short lives compared to elves, and that elves, while they can be killed by some great hurt, men are more easily killed by those things. Like, what could kill a man may just kind of wound an elf, and they can be healed by this. And so Turin asks, well, can Lilith come back? And Sador explains, no, she's not going to come back. That, that's the fate of man. Where she goes, men don't really know. And Turin's like, well, is this a curse? Has something happened to men that they've been cursed, like the evil breath? And Sador's like, I don't really know. That there's just a darkness out there. We don't really know what's going on. It's just the fate of men. Maybe men before were trying to escape this, and that's why we came over the mountains, and now our only hope lies over the sea. And Turin goes, Turin's asking if we're afraid of anything, and Sador's like, well, some are, and again, that's why maybe that we're going towards the sea. And Turin's like, well, I'm not afraid, my father's not afraid, and my mother's not afraid, so I'm not going to be afraid, or at least I'm not going to show it. And it's at this point that Sador sees the grief that Turin has endured, and how much losing his sister has aged Turin. And so Turin now replies that he wishes that he was an elf, that he was an Eldar, because maybe then Lilith wouldn't have died, or if she did, he could at least go and retrieve her. And Sador goes, it's not like elves have it completely easy, but men do have it harder, and maybe we'd be better off if elves weren't around. Kind of like, well, maybe then we wouldn't be comparing our lives to them. And this kind of confuses Turin, because Turin's like, well, my father loves elves, so they have to be good for us. And that's kind of where the conversation ends. So now we move on. Turin is almost 8 years old now, and there is a good chance that Hurin is about to go to war. And so him and Morwen are having this conversation of what to do if he does go to war, if he doesn't survive this, what do they do? And so there's talk about, maybe Morwen can take Turin to the people of Brethel. That's his kin. Maybe they can go there. Morwen's like, well, if there is this great big evil, if there is this big war, what good is it going to do to just go to other men who are still susceptible to death? And he's like, okay, well, what's your idea? And she goes, well, what about Gondolin? Can't you take us there? And he goes, I have never said that name. It's never crossed my lips. Yes, you know that I've been there, but you also know that I can't tell anybody where it is, and I also don't know where it is. And she goes, but you know the location. And he's like, yeah, but until Turgon relieves me of my oath, I'm not going to tell anybody where Gondolin is, so we need another idea. And she's like, okay, well, what about Doriath? I'm of the kin of Bjor, close of Baron. Maybe Thingol can take us in, and that would be better. We'd be under the girdle of Melion. That's real protection. And Hurin's like, well, maybe, but Thingol hasn't really been helping any of us, so the likelihood that he would help you is kind of slim. And Hurin kind of giggles, and he's like, look, we're debating about something that may or may not really happen. And if it does really happen, I can't help you make that choice. So it's going to be up to you to make the choice that you think is best for you and our son. And so they kind of leave the conversation there. Now, Turin, it's his birthday. He's 8 years old. It's a big deal. Hurin gives him an elf-made knife. And he's so excited about it. And Hurin is, just being a dad saying, here's this cool knife. It'll protect you and your mother. You're getting so big, kind of this like, you may end up being the man of the house sort of conversation. Well, Turin, being a child, thinks to himself, hey, Sador told me to give freely with an open hand, only which is mine. I'm going to give Sador my cool knife that I just got. So he goes to Sador and he shows him this knife. And he's like, I want to give this to you. And Sador is conflicted because he's like, he knows that he just got this for his birthday, so he doesn't really want to take it. But at the same time, it's rude to not accept a gift that's been given to you freely. And so Sador reluctantly takes it. And so Turin is kind of telling him where he got the sword, that his dad gave it to him, and that he thinks it's really cool, and he wants to give it to Sador. And Sador's like, okay. Well, Hurin sees that Turin doesn't have the sword that he just gave him. And Turin's like, well, I gave it to Sador. Well, this upsets Morwen, because Morwen's like, Sador's an idiot. You shouldn't have given it to him. It was a gift given to you. And, just kind of like saying, almost like if you were going to give it to someone other than Sador, because he's dumb. And Huron's like, okay, you need to be a little kinder to Sador. It's fine. He works hard, and just sort of standing up for Sador. And Morwen goes, well, that was the gift that's given to you. You're going to have to earn the next gift that you get then. But because of this, because Turin has shown kindness to Sador, Sador is now being treated more kindly by those around. So now this section ends with Hurin having to go to war. And basically it's pretty short, but it's just a farewell of Hurin having to leave and Morwen bidding him farewell and Turin, telling him goodbye. And it ends with Morwen and Turin standing at their doors, just watching Hurin leave and being able to hear the faint call of his horn over the hill where they can't see him anymore. So that completes this first section. There's not a lot of notes on this. It's all just new information, which is pretty cool. But something to just keep in mind is that in the introduction for this, Christopher Tolkien is talking about how Turin is one of Tolkien's most complicated characters, that there's so many notes to go over, so much just full sections about Turin that didn't get put in the Silmarillion. So we're going to learn a lot more of Turin. We're going to be on this for about 12 to 13 weeks. There's a lot of information here about Turin. So if you like him, we're going to be talking a lot about him, but it's pretty cool. As far as Morwen, I got the impression in the Silmarillion that she was very emotionally driven, and I thought, well, maybe, Tolkien's trying to get at something, because she seemed very emotionally driven in decisions she was making, and then Turin seemed very emotionally driven. His sister seemed very emotionally driven, so I was like, maybe Tolkien's getting at something here. But in the Unfinished Tales, in this section, and learning about Morwen, she may be still emotionally driven after Irwin. There's definitely a lot of bitterness that's kind of driving her a little bit. But there still seems to be a lot of logic behind her choices. So it's not completely what I thought in the Silmarillion. She's very reserved, very cold, but I don't think she's being cold and like she doesn't love her son. I think it's more of being cold, being stern to prepare her son. Like, she knows the world that she's in. So I don't think this is out of like she doesn't love her son. I think she's like this way because she loves her son, and she's trying to prepare her son for the world out there. I don't know. But I just have a new impression of Morwen than what I had. She still is a cold woman, but losing Irwin was hard on her, so it's understandable. But she is very hard. Like, she does not want to be around dummies, and you see that with Sador. But again, I think that's also why she's probably hard on Turin, because she wants him to be self-sufficient and be able to protect himself later on. So I think she's being a good mother. It just looks a little differently than maybe the stereotypical lovey-dovey mother. She's trying, and I appreciate that. And I also appreciate Hurin being like, we're debating about something that I'm not really going to be able to help you decide. You're going to have to make this decision, so I trust you. But yeah, this is an interesting chapter. We're going to be in this for a very long time, so I hope you guys are excited. I'm ready for this. I hope you are too. But ultimately, I hope you guys have a wonderful, blessed week, and may your homes be filled with food and cheer. Bye.